podcast you've been looking for all along. Step into the life of urban exploration with guests from around the world. Welcome to No Tracers. Welcome to No Tracers. My name is Kay, just the letter K, and I am your host here on this podcast all about urban exploring. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for joining us this week for an episode with Greg Abandoned. He is the host of the Chasing Bandos podcast, one of the only other urban exploration podcasts that exists. Super excited to have him on the podcast today. And if you guys want to listen to me on his podcast, I will actually be on the Chasing Bandos podcast shortly. So just kind of go over there, subscribe, and make sure you guys keep up with the Chasing Bandos podcast and everything that Greg Abandon is doing, and you will definitely get to hear more of my story about how I got into this hobby on his podcast, where we dive into how I got into urban exploring. Before we get into this podcast, there's a few things I need to let you know about. The first of which being, I have an urban exploration book out called No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. So if you guys are interested in getting a photography book filled with awesome photos from around the world, as well as some crazy stories, go to notracers.com/shop, and you can pick up a signed copy there. I've got a box of them in my office, and I would love to send you a copy. If you do get one, I will actually send you a signed photo print along with the book, as well as the personalized book itself. If you're new to the podcast, please hit the subscribe button. And if you've been listening for one episode, 10 episodes, if you've listened to all the episodes, please do me a favor and leave a rating and feedback on the podcast. It helps us grow on the Apple podcast charts, and it helps us find more viewers or listeners like you. Speaking of viewers, if you want to watch this podcast and see Greg Abandon's photos while we talk about this stuff, please head to youtube.com/justtheletterK, and you can check out this episode as well as the other episodes with photos from my guests. The last thing I need to let you know is that we have a partner here on this podcast, and that is Liquid Death Water. Thank you to Liquid Death Water. If you've never heard of it, get ready to murder your thirst with some Austrian mountain water with this ad in 3, 2, 1. From the streams of the Austrian Alps comes a new kind of water. A water that is sure to raise you from your grave. If you're tired of buying cases of plastic water bottles that contain carcinogens and God knows what else, or if you're trying to lower your waste footprint, Liquid Death comes in beautifully rugged aluminum cans. Murder your thirst with a can of Liquid Death. Check the link in the description and use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off your order. Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. So if you want 10% off your order at liquiddeath.com, use code JustTheLetterK or hit the affiliate link down in the description, and it will automatically apply a 10% coupon code for you. You can get 1 case of water, you can get 20, 30 cases of water, and you'll get 10% off if you use that code. Thank you guys for listening to another week. Without further ado, Greg Abandoned, please introduce yourself and how long you've been exploring to the No Tracers audience.
Okay, hi, I'm Greg Abandoned, and I am an urban explorer. I have a podcast called Chasing Bandos podcast, so that's how we kind of met. And I have been posting some pictures on Instagram from time to time. And yeah, I currently live in China, so I bring those unique abandoned places to the Western audience. And mostly those places have never been seen. So I'm doing rather well. And yeah, I love exploring, and I don't think I can do anything else right now. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I love that we connected, and I love that we're doing this. I think it's cool that there's only a few urban exploring podcasts, and we're kind of connecting the dots together and building the community together. I think it's super cool that you wanted to come on here and share some of your stories.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I know about your podcast for a while now, and yeah, I was intrigued. Mostly, I'm intrigued how you're going to stop me from talking for longer than like half an hour, 40 minutes. But let's see.
We'll see what we can do. So, Greg, what got you into exploring in the first place? What made you catch this crazy bug?
Okay, so this is a bit of a story because essentially I was always a person who had this fascination with post-apocalyptic themes. It comes from the fact that ultimately down there I'm a massive nerd, and I used to play those Fallout games, and Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was the one that kind of captured in my imagination. There's this. I know I sound like a super nerd right now, but it's a combination of things. Essentially, that game captured my imagination in such a weird way, and then I was always kind of looking for those kind of themes in movies, in books. Like Book of Eli is one of my favorite movies, or Mad Max movies, or The Road is the book that I read by Cormac McCarthy, which is absolutely incredible. And I was always a guy who would be like looking online, watching. I was the one who was clicking like on other explorers' pictures, and only until kind of like my personal life exploded, I got divorced. I had a pretty stable, boring life, and after this happened, I was sitting with my mate. There was this guy that lived, my neighbor, and I met him only like just after this happened. And this guy, like we added each other Facebooks and stuff, and then I saw his pictures before, maybe like from 5 6 years prior to that, and I was just like, whoa, this dude was like a handsome dude, like a slim, handsome dude. And the dude that was sitting right in front of me was just a massive wreck. And I was like, I was just like, wait, dude, like what happened? Like asking like what happened to you? Because like I looked at your pictures, you look completely different. And honestly, this guy looked completely different. And he said that he got divorced and he turned into alcohol and weed and stuff like that, and he just basically wrecked himself. He just couldn't handle it. And so I, like, when I was looking at him, and I'm sorry to say this, but he kind of like just gave me this motivation of, man, I cannot be this person, I cannot be like this. I have to find a positive. I have to turn this into something positive, because anything that happens in our life, we can either feel sorry for ourselves or we can do something about it. And I decided, and again, this was the circumstances that happened in my life. And I decided to actually wait, how about I find someone to go to Chernobyl with me? Because I really always wanted to go to Chernobyl. Chernobyl was like this mecca of abandoned places. And yeah, and there was a guy at my work, who was kind of like a little bit obsessed with the video game as me. That's kind of how we clicked first. And then I said this to him, hey, how about we go to Chernobyl? And then he said yes. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's go. I went to Chernobyl, and after that, my life has changed. Like after that, I couldn't go back. I started posting things on Instagram because I just felt the Chernobyl stuff was so cool, and so I just wanted to post this. I think I started Instagram 2 years before going to Chernobyl, and I had like a pick 2 or 3 pictures of my cat or something. Um, and because yeah, we had a cat, and and uh, and yeah, when I started posting those pictures from Instagram, the engagement I got was like 6 5 times 10 times better than any of the pictures that I posted previously, that my friends would only see, right? And And because of Instagram, I learned about urbex. I learned about the community. I learned about the feature pages that feature other explorers' pictures. And basically, I've learned that there is this whole section of urban explorers called urbex, and they go to abandoned places. And I was hooked, and I was just like, this is what I want to do.
So you're telling me Chernobyl was your first exploration?
Yes.
Oh, dude, that's like the most insane. Like, do you realize how crazy that is? That's like the epitome of an urban explorer's bucket list. Like, so many people want to go there, and that was your first explore.
Yeah,
Wow.
but like I am crazy. That's the thing. Like so that's I would say that's kind of typical, for me to just like
Yeah.
dive in.
Wow. That's absolutely insane. Can you take me more into Chernobyl? Like, did you go the tourist route? Did you go through the forest? Like, what was your explore like?
You see, the thing is, like for example, on my podcast, Chasing Bandos podcast, I have this Chernobyl mini series that I do where I interview different people somehow involved with Chernobyl. And that's going to be like 10 episodes. We are on episode 8 now. But the reason I did it is because, again, this is like how I started and how special this place is for me. And it's also like what you say, it's a place where every explorer wants to go. Now, when I was just total noob and I didn't have absolutely no idea about this community, about urban exploring, anything, I I didn't know there are other ways to go to Chernobyl. Like I didn't know there are people who might take you like on the side roads through the forest, that kind of stuff. Like I absolutely had no idea. So the only thing I knew was to like go online, type Chernobyl tours, find someone, and then so I found just official tour, and I went on the 2-day tour, and honestly, it was amazing. Now I would opt for something else because I know a little bit more about different type of experiences that you can have. But at the time, that's the only thing I knew. But it's still, for me, it was uh, literally life-changing event. We were there. I think it was 2000, either 17 or 18. I really can't remember. I'm sorry. And it was in March, and it was so quiet in there, and I felt so. My mate and I, we went there. So and they put us in a group of around 10 different people, and there was some couple other guys in there, and like really cool group. We went out. We had some drinks. We actually got drunk in Chernobyl.
Sick.
Because they they um they made us sleep in the zone, like in one of the like towns near Chernobyl, like where all the other workers they work. Because like the thing that people don't understand is that the Chernobyl people still work in there, because the reactor that exploded is just one of the reactors, and there were other reactors, and they trying to shut everything down. So, and obviously that takes a long time. So there are still people working in there. We took a train that the workers take from that town to Chernobyl, which was amazing, which was awesome. And yeah, but in that town, it was it was just like a regular small kind of post-Soviet town. They had a bar, and there was like there was 5 of us. We went out for one drink, and then we ended up having 7, and it was fun. Yeah, the next day was rough, but yeah, I remember standing on top of the building, on one of the top of the building, and just seeing the whole city. I didn't have a drone at that time. My camera was kind of basic, and I'm just looking at this city of Pripyat, and just this kind of feeling that I got, that my God, like 50,000 people just used to live there. Like I could almost like hear the children playing in the running around, people just walking, going on about their business, and all of a sudden it's just like this isolated place where all you see is trees. Like the nature literally like took over. You don't see the streets. Obviously, you see some of them, but it's just like this city hidden in the trees. And it's amazing. You walk those corridors. Obviously, everything is kind of taken, but so it's not like one of those places in France or Italy where you can still find stuff inside. Everything has been looted, obviously. There's a bit more
Mm.
stuff in like hospital where you can notice couple things. There's the restaurant. There is supermarket. Yeah, there's just like so many different places there. Obviously, there is the swimming pool, and I used to play the video games. So like the Call of Duty, like the
Yeah.
one of the games. When I saw this, and honestly, when I went to Chernobyl, I wasn't even thinking about Call of Duty. So only when I actually went inside this swimming pool, I'm like nudging my friend. I was like, "Hey, dude, like, are you seeing this? This is that level. Like, this is here. Like," and he was a gamer as well. So we were just absolutely shitting ourselves in that like the swimming pool area. It was just like I can just even now speaking about it, I feel the kind of my hair on my arm as I'm standing up. I'm getting
Dude.
chills because
Yeah.
all of those kind of emotions that you have, uh, you feel like this weird connection. Like I've been only there once, and I've been there for 2 days, but I just felt like I belong. It's so
Mm.
weird to say it because maybe for me it's a little bit different because I grew up in Poland and I grew up as this kid who had this feeling of never belonging in that country. Is so weird. I've never been homesick. When I was 18, I left and I moved to England, and and I never missed home, never ever. And I was always like had that wanderlust, and yeah, and so growing up and having that sense of like not belonging to this place. When I went to Chernobyl, it was just like wow. I don't want to say I'm home because that's weird, but honestly, it was just like wow, like oh god, this is what I want to do. Like I want to visit
Wow.
places like this. Yeah,
That's incredible, man. No, I get what you mean though by saying like you felt like you were welcomed home, Like that's how I feel when I go into these places. Like I belong there, like I'm supposed to be there. Like it was meant for us to explore, talking about that a little bit more, like can you talk about the mentality of an urban explorer? Like why do we do this? Like why? It's not a normal thing to go into abandoned places. Like, what is it about us that, like, what do you get out of it? You know what I mean?
yeah, that's the thing. Like when I'm hearing you, I'm just thinking to myself like we must be wired in like a little bit in a different way. I think. Um, I don't know. Like I think maybe everyone has this. Not everyone, definitely not everyone. Let me go back on that one because I broke up with a couple of my girlfriends because they didn't they didn't have that. But yeah, I would say that I think you have to be naturally a very curious person with a lot of imagination. I think because I'm the person who, and I bring up this argument a lot of times when people ask me why I do this. I say, when I walk on the street and I see a tall fence and there's like a construction site behind it, I'm naturally curious about like what's behind the fence. And when I see the
Mm.
fence, I'm just looking at like, okay, is this tall enough for me to climb? Like I don't see the difficulty in like when I see a fence. And some people see something like a fence and they think to themselves like, okay, I cannot go there. I think also there's this thing about following and breaking rules. I think you have to be a little bit of a rebel inside because I'm always someone who I've always been someone who had maybe a little bit of a problem with authority and people telling me what I can do, what I cannot do. Um, and obviously, this hobby is a bit of a on the edge of those things. But in terms of the mentality, it's a really interesting. It's a really interesting question because there must be something in us to that we find those places fascinating. But I don't know. Like for me, it's just like I kind of have this feeling of like being in this quiet place and kind of imagining what the life used to be and just it's obviously the adrenaline is amazing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know
Yeah.
what you're going to find. You don't know what's going to surprise you. So your senses are like so sharp when you do this. And sometimes you see, I love those places where it's a little bit difficult to get in. That I have to have some sort of physical, there must be some sort of physical element for me to like get someone on. There's a really tall fence, or there's some sort of like climbing involved. Maybe there's a security on site where I have to sneak around and avoid, and it just gives me that little buzz inside, this adrenaline high that's absolutely amazing, and it makes me just feel alive. And yeah, and it's that feeling where you kind of start doing this, then you look for those moments, and
Mm-hmm.
every time you go and you find something, like you go to the place and then you find this like amazing shot, and you can see this shot. Like you go there and you like, oh my god, oh, I can photograph this, this is amazing. And it just like makes me so happy. Or I normally, when I find something that's really incredible, I just like start dancing. I just start dancing. Honestly, I just start going around in circles, and I'm like, yes, fist pumping. Honestly, like a 5-year-old child who just got a present for Christmas. Like I am like this. So so I remember finding this like abandoned bullet train, where we were doing this. My friend and I, we were doing this um, train factory, and we were done with it. And there was like basically nothing there. We just found this picture of Mao, Chairman Mao. We did some pictures with that, and then we were about to leave, and I spotted this like other warehouse in a completely different direction. There was some noise coming from it, which meant that probably there was some sort of scrapper, like cutting metal in there. So I kind of wanted to avoid that, but then my friend was like, "I don't want to climb a fence. How about we just walk out the gate and just wave to the security?" Because you see, in China, like obviously they won't let you in, but when you leave, like what are they gonna do? Like because
Mm-hmm.
the um the attitude here is obviously a little bit different. By little, I mean like it's so much different than in America. It's not like it's not so serious when it comes to like being on places like that. People just be like, obviously they will be angry, like and say like, what are you doing here, blah blah blah. But then as you walk away, like what are they gonna do? Like they're not gonna do anything. So she was just like, let's not climb the fence, let's go this way. And I was just face palming all the time. I was like, come on, let's not do that. And but she convinced me. And so when we were trying to leave, I noticed this other warehouse, and I was like, come on, Jojo, let's just check what's in here. And it was just total luck that we went in there, and I'm like, are you for real? Because all this factory, there were some carriages outside and there was nothing inside. There was just like a wreck. The place was a wreck. They were clearly demolishing it. We were there on the weekend, so they were not doing it at the time that we were there. The whole site So many buildings around it were already demolished. And I was like, okay, there was couple nice pictures here, but not too much. And then all of a sudden, I find this train, and I'm like, you just imagine like bullet train abandoned, like destroyed, like amazing, looks beautiful. I am just dancing. Oh my God. I think I just for like a minute, a solid minute, I was just like going around, like dancing like crazy. Like she's looking at me and she's like, "Who are you?" But I'm like, I don't care. Like this is amazing because I'm seeing this picture, I'm seeing the video here, and I'm like, oh my God. How, like, are you serious? Are you serious? Stuff like this, it's unreal. And those are the moments that I constantly look for those moments, and there's not like this is not a lot, and you cannot like come across a lot of things like this all the time, but from time to time when you come across something that's truly incredible, it's just there's no feeling like that.
Absolutely. And can you tell me about your scariest exploration?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I do not believe in any sort of ghosts and any paranormal stuff. So
Mhm.
that's like absolutely there's no way I will ever believe in that. All right. So I'm not trying to be ignorant here. I really like get real. Nothing, none of that stuff exists. But then I have this one, and I hate this story. I honestly hate this because like I am trying to find a proper explanation to this. I just cannot find it. And the thing is, I was exploring this. It was like some sort of like factory, like a small factory, different buildings. And this factory, so the first weird thing is this factory has been turned to an art gallery. So when we were going this, we were this was I was with my friend Jojo as well, and we were exploring this place. I obviously climbed the fence, I always find the worst possible way to get inside. She just found like she walked a couple meters away from it and found like a hole in the fence, and she just climbed in. I hopped the fence with like barbed wire, like just classic Greg. Um, and then I'm like exploring this place, and I see all those like weird, like super weird art installations inside, and it's clearly art because it's like why would you have this in a sugar factory, right? So that's the first thing that was like super creepy because it's even though it's art gallery, it's been abandoned. Like someone
Mm.
just left this stuff. So I'm going from those rooms, different buildings, and just like I'm already weird out. Like I was just like super. There was this one tree, like this super weird, like something you would see in a horror movie. If this was like dark, if it was dark and I was doing this, I would be totally freaked out. No, it was basically like noon, so it was bright as hell. And then one room had this like a weird painting of this giant on the wall, and on the other side um, there was this tree. It was so weird, so weird. And then I'm walking, checking all the different buildings. So I go to this building, which was clearly like a dining area, and I have my phone out because I was like, I'm gonna share this on Instagram. This is like so weird. So I'm holding my phone, recording myself going through this, and basically I'm talking about this. And at some stage, I hear a baby crying, and
Whoa.
I turn around, and that's where my finger, like, automatically I press the stop on the recording. And guess what? I was so worried that I pressed it before the baby crying. So
Mm.
it would be like one of those typical stories where, oh, I heard baby crying, but then I just stopped recording before it, so you just have to believe me, I have no evidence,
Yeah.
right? But guess what, I pressed it right after, so I actually have the
Wow.
recording of it. So when you hook up my phone to like a speaker, and you obviously put the volume up, you can hear this baby crying, and it's so weird, and I cannot explain this. One person told me that it might have been a cat, like a cat crying, but until you hear this, you'll be like, no way, no way, it is a baby." And I just turn around and I'm like, "Oh, what's this? Like, where's this baby?" And obviously there was no baby, there was no one here, no one there. We were like in the middle of the forest.
That's terrifying. That's absolutely terrifying,
I,
dude.
I was shitting myself. Yeah, I was just like, what the hell? So this is one story where I I just cannot explain this. And I would love if there was someone that would be able to hear it and tell me like, hey, this is that. And I would accept any sort of explanation, because any explanation for me would be better than what I just heard, because I don't know how to explain that.
Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, I mean, hopefully somebody can give you like a rational
Yes.
explanation for what it is, because like it sounds insane, but like you have evidence of it, which like proves that there was something, you know? So that's pretty scary. And do you have a preference on exploring with people, or would you rather explore alone? Like, what is your preference?
Okay, so this is how kind of my journey went. When I was living back in London, I and this is where I kind of like discovered the community. Sorry, let me start again. When I was living in London and I discovered the urban exploring, I had like just absolutely no idea how to do it. So I would just like look on stuff online and then go there. So, but I would just kind of travel around Europe and do a couple places in there. So I always would. My preference would always be to be with someone, with one extra person. That's the ideal scenario. It's just me and one extra person. And most of my exploring life, it was like this. But at the same time, I would say 90% of the time, the person I was with, they were not urban explorer. They were just
Mm.
a friend or a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, my brother. There would be someone. I would sometimes go by myself if the place was absolutely incredible and I couldn't find anyone to go with me because of various things. So that's my kind of ideal scenario. I do not know how people do it with like a group of five or more. I really don't know,
That
because
blows my mind.
yeah, because I feel like this is almost like like you invite trouble to yourself. But
Mm.
maybe at the same time, like if there is five people who like everyone is on the same page and everyone is like focused, but then even like even saying this, I don't believe my sentence. Like there's like if there's five people going, like there's always some sort of like you know like I'm sure people have a lot of fun. I'm sure it's like fun, crazy, but it's just I think it's just too much that you
Hmm.
just is the problems are waiting to happen.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And oftentimes when there's big groups like that, like you're really loud. Like
Yes.
the whole point of this is to be quiet and incognito. Like you're not trying to draw attention to yourself. And oftentimes when there's groups, it's so loud.
Yeah, and some people like bring some like music and they play music and they
Yeah.
like it's just I but you see that's the thing I am not trying to kind of criticize, but at the same time
Mm.
I am. um a lot of people see this hobby as a social, like a uh, like a social event, uh,
Yeah.
getting a few friends, explorers together, going somewhere together. And I get this, like it must be awesome to do that. But once you in the location, that's where I think things should change. You know,
Hmm.
that's where you need to be a little bit more respectful, and it's like game is on. On the way in the car, when you listen to the on the way you listen to the podcast, you listen to the Urbex podcast, you listen to my podcast, you listen to your podcast, gets you talking, right? Gets you talking, sharing stories about exploring, and that's all great. And you can have fun, after and all that. But when you're in it, I feel like your mood has to change a little bit. Like it's serious now.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any? I know you said that you like to find the most difficult way to get into these places. Do you have any urban exploration injury stories that you can share?
Uh, Not really. Like I have not hurt myself seriously. Uh, yeah, the reason I say I find the worst possible entrance is just because like I'm itching to go inside. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I might not have enough patience to like go around. Um, and basically I would start going around and then you noticed things that are unusual. Now, after doing this for a long time, whenever I go, I would just notice things that are different. Oh, there's a little
Mm.
bit of a hole there. Oh, there's a gap there. Oh, there's a broken window there. So I notice those things, and it's hard for me to like move away from the first thing I notice. So when I
Mm.
notice the possible way in, I'm like, okay, let me just try this instead of walking around because I'm thinking to myself like I don't want to waste time. I just want to get in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then what usually happens is once you inside and you learn about this location much more because you're on the inside. When you're ready to leave, you notice things like, oh, wait, oh, are you serious? The door was open. Just like
Mm-hmm.
15, 15 meters away from here, someone didn't lock the
Oh
door.
God.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I could have taken that, So yeah, so that's kind of what. Obviously, I cut myself many times on like
Sure.
the barbed wire. I was bleeding from my leg, from my arms. So like that kind of thing. But I've never knock on wood. I don't know if you hear this. I'm trying to
Yep. Yep.
punch my my mic. Yeah, I've haven't had like any serious injuries. No, let's hopefully will
Good.
stay
Good.
that
I'm
way.
happy to hear that. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I hope so. And oftentimes we do a lot of research before we go to these places, or even after we go to these places, because we want to know more about them. Do you have a favorite history of a place that you've explored?
Uh, you know, if I had to pick one, I mean, obviously we already talked about Chernobyl, so I'm not gonna pick that one,
Hmm.
but it is obviously one of my favorites. I would say, and maybe because I want to like mention this on the podcast because this is something I'm really proud that I've done, and it's the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. And I went to those abandoned space shuttles in Kazakhstan. So
No way.
so,
Oh.
uh, yeah, so going there and obviously being inside a space shuttle, being on top of this space shuttle, uh, the whole fact that they send this thing to orbit. Um, it wasn't the space shuttle I was on. It wasn't exactly the one that went to orbit and came back because that one is now destroyed. The roof collapsed on that one, but it was obviously you don't just build one space shuttle like you build more in
Mhm.
case something happens. So in that base, there is a hangar with two space shuttles. They called Buran, and yeah, the whole journey of going there through that desert, 40 kilometers hike one way, 40 kilometers back. The
Wow.
fact that I went there with another guy who got caught, I didn't get caught. That's like a huge story. And if I may tease this, I on my podcast do mini series. So I mentioned this. I've done the Chernobyl mini series. So I will be doing a mini series about those shuttles because the whole area is called Baikonur Cosmodrome. So I will be interviewing people who did the same as me, and I will tell this story, like what happened, because it's a really long story about what happened with me and this guy in the desert. But essentially, like he got caught and I didn't get caught. But coming back
Wow.
to your question, this place is obviously filled with history. The whole
Mm.
kind of space race between America and Russia, and it's just absolutely incredible location. There's an explorer called Bob Tisson. He has his YouTube channel exploring the unbeaten path, and I saw his article, or more like it was like an article about him, how he and two other guys they did the hike, and I saw this like way back, maybe it was like 6 or 7 years ago, and I wasn't even considering any of that stuff. I didn't know. I just saw it online somewhere, and I just I just couldn't believe it. And it was like one of those things where there was always at the back of my mind, there are some people who do this thing, but it would never cross my mind that I would be one of them because I had at that time I had a completely different life. And and now Bob is my friend. It's just like unreal. And this guy is a
Wow.
legend. Like, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Wow, that's so cool. And can you talk a little bit more about social media, like what it's done for you as an explorer, as a creator?
Yes. So um mainly, I always say people obviously criticize social media. First of all, I would like to get myself a little bit more out there in terms of other medium than Instagram. Recently, I created a Facebook page as well for Greg Abandon and for the Chasing Bandos podcast, because I feel like you need to branch out a little bit more than just Instagram. But mainly, I I started on Instagram and I always use it as an inspiration. And
Mm.
I would say 99.9% of my interaction or social any sort of dealing that I have with people is extremely positive. Like people are super nice with me, and I just sometimes like the people who are out there, the people who follow me, they like they give me motivation to like keep going. That sometimes the
Mm.
messages that you get are just so amazing, and it was just like I'm sitting here editing for like 5 hours, 6 hours, my eyes are dying, my neck is dying, and all of a sudden I get this message on on Instagram saying how oh, I listened to your podcast, or I saw your places, they're amazing, blah blah blah, what you're doing is great. And it just like validates what you do, because obviously there is this thing of like, yes, I do love exploring, I love going to those places, I love all those feelings that I've been talking about, but at the same time, if there is someone out there who likes what you do and they appreciate it, it's just like it's amazing feeling. It's absolutely amazing. And then there are people who say that you are inspiration to them. I cannot
Mm.
like I cannot uh, uh, I cannot treat that seriously. Like honestly, like that one, I just say thank you. I'm polite and all this stuff. If people ask me for advice, I give the advice that people gave me when I started. But like it's a little bit for me like a little bit ridiculous that someone can think that I'm sort of inspiration to someone. Um, but what I would say is mainly to people is just we live in the world where a fear is driving us. Everything is fear. Everything is like you cannot do this. And I would say, you know what? Fuck that. Uh, do it and see what happens. And mainly, it, I would say 9 out of 10 times when you make a risk, it pays off. Just because no one takes risks. So you're already doing something unusual. And there's amount of times when I was in a situation when I'm in the middle of nowhere and I'm like, how am I gonna get home? And I just stop a random car and ask for help, and everyone is just like, I've never ever been in a situation when someone told me, okay, go away, like we're not gonna help you. Like always,
Mm.
always. It's amazing. Like you just have to give people some credit, and I would say like my followers are amazing, and thank you guys.
And the other thing is like, even if you're afraid, just do it scared. Just do it afraid. Just do it anyway. Like you were saying, like fuck
Mm.
it, do it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and very soon you realize that it wasn't as scary as you were thinking.
Mhm. Absolutely. And then do you have any other bucket list items, other goal places that you want to go that you haven't been to yet?
Yes. So essentially, I cannot technically talk too much about like the plans because it's still kind of under the works. But um, there is a big plan of like in terms of like going exploring around the world for a bit of a longer time. For me
Wow.
and another explorer, we have a bit of a project that we want to do, but we're not yet ready to reveal this. But there is something coming,
Ooh.
and so we. There's obviously so many places around the world that you would want to do. I've never done the Fukushima or the Hashima Island in Japan, and those are a bit of a like a classic kind of places, really
Mm.
difficult to get in, and I've never explored in Japan. So if I had to pick right now, then I would go there. Definitely want to do that, but mainly I want to focus uh, on those countries which are not your typical ones. you know I know my friend really wants to do Europe, and don't get me wrong, Europe is amazing, and we can spend probably 4 months in there, and probably we wouldn't see everything. But I'm more interested in places like Russia. Russia is
Mhm.
incredible for locations. um, all those stans, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, all those funny countries there. Sorry, I don't mean to be like sound derogatory, but yeah, like they just have funny names. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I just want to go and kind of just like explore. I'm fascinated with South America. I always been
Mm.
fascinated with like the lost civilizations and stuff, the Amazon and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just not seeing anyone posting any sort of abandoned stuff from there. So I'm kind of itching to go there. Plus, I have a lot of following in Latin America and South America. So it'd be awesome to go there, and also like Africa. I've seen a couple places in
Yeah.
Africa, and just like obviously no one goes there, and I want to be a guy who goes to places where no one goes. So yeah,
Mhm.
I would say there are probably a lot of like exciting things happening. I cannot say soon, but there's something in works, and yeah, I would love to see all of that stuff.
Awesome, man. And then if you could live in one place you've explored for a week, which place would it be?
Yeah, that's kind of easy because like I lived basically the space shuttles, like I lived there for 2 days, because
Yeah.
we we had this agreement that we only would move during the night, because we were so afraid of
Mm.
getting caught, so afraid of
Yeah.
like security, because obviously it's an active military base, where they sent rockets to space. Even now, it's just part of it on the edge is abandoned, right? So it's like just to like, when I say this, it just sounds so crazy that I actually have done this, but but yeah, so like I lived the whole day and night in one and the whole day in the other one. And honestly, there are more places in there. There are more buildings in there, and I would love to spend a whole week in there. Actually, a whole week in there sounds like something I would be willing to do. I mean, it's really difficult in terms of like obviously bringing enough water and food for you to survive. But yeah, I would totally do it again if I had a chance.
Amazing. And then my last question for you is, what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started exploring?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question. So there's gonna be a gap here that I would like you to cut, the thinking gap.
For sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a really good question. What should I know? You see, okay, so let me answer this in this way because that's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind. And maybe as I'm talking about this, something else will come to my mind. So when I started on Instagram, just in if there is an explorer who is thinking of like obviously posting pictures and sharing pictures, what I would do is know your medium and know your um, audience. And what I mean by this is that Instagram is on your phone. 99% of people are using their phones when they go on Instagram. And your phone is vertical, which means you should post vertical pictures because they cover more of the screen. And therefore, you would have more of an impact to like the impression on your pictures can be much greater than if you post like a landscape picture which just covers about like 30% or 33% of your screen. So uh, I wish I knew that right at the beginning. And if you see my gallery now, I dare you to find a landscape picture. Like I'm sure there is something there. But when I shoot my pictures and when I fly my drone, even though my drone can only take landscape, the Mavic Pro 2 can only take landscape. Mavic Pro 1, actually, there was a mode where you can turn your camera to be vertical. That was amazing. I couldn't believe they didn't have that in the Mavic 2. But anyway, so when I'm flying my drone, I would always um, have to think about I'm taking landscape picture, but I am always thinking of vertical shots, always. But obviously, when you take pictures, I would with your camera, for example, I would always take a landscape and vertical. So the same thing. Always take a landscape. Always take a picture, a vertical, because you don't know. You might need a picture for your website, or you might want to create a photo book or something. So you don't want to have one type of pictures only. So that would be my kind of advice when it comes to like exploring. What I would say maybe invest in like good shoes. Have a good shoes in there. That's kind of funny to say that because in the summer sometimes I go in flip flops, which is ridiculous. Uh, I know. But sometimes the places that you go to are a little bit remote and they involve a bit of climbing and stuff. So always bring water with you, that kind of stuff. Like don't forget to eat. But you see, the things I say, like I am constantly making those mistakes. I would wake up 4 or 5 in the morning to go somewhere, and then by the time I'm done, it's like 5 p.m. and I'm like thinking to myself, why do I have a headache, or why my stomach is growling? Oh wait, because I haven't eaten all day, and I've been just like on the adrenaline all day. So sometimes those are the things that kind of like you need to hold on your excitement a little bit, and yeah, and prepare yourself a little bit more. And I would say that with everything, I want to always share and promote this, like the code. I know it's kind of like some people might think this is silly and stuff, but I would say if the place is boarded up, if there's absolutely no way in, well, then okay, it's fine. Like it hurts, especially if you travel really long for like for a long time to get somewhere. But just sometimes that's what it is. Like sometimes in life, you win some and you lose some, and you will move on from this. It's just a location. It's just a building. So if you cannot get inside, all right, just move on. There's a next one. There's always a next one.
Yep, absolutely. So we did a podcast. I almost got you to 45 minutes. I think we did pretty good here. So if people want to keep following your journey, can you just tell them where they can find you online, your social media, that kind of stuff, and the podcast, obviously?
Yeah. So first, I would say, obviously, check out the Chasing Bandos podcast. That's where we interview different explorers from around the world, and I really try to interview, honestly, like super different types of explorers. From people who are like have done this for years, for people who have done this only couple years or a couple months. Different people from different nationalities. I kind of like, I have this little map in my house, and I'm ticking off the countries of the people that I've interviewed from different countries, which is cool. We also have the mini series. That's something I'm really proud of, the mini series, because it gets me to talk to people who are not explorers about the places that I visit, and we all visit. So that's amazing, like different people's perspective on different locations. That's great. And obviously you can check out my pictures, my mediocre pictures on Greg Abandon Instagram page, and I hope you find them all right. And I have, like I said, created a Facebook page, so if you can like type Greg Abandon or Chasing Bandos podcast on Facebook, like we're pretty new to that. So on Facebook, I'm actually starting to share more pictures from locations. On Instagram, I tend to just put one picture from one location, and that's it. But on Facebook, I would put like more pictures from locations. So that's where I would go. The gregabandon.com website is coming. It's in the works. And there might be some other project soon, but those obviously you would find all of those on the website.
Wow, what an episode that was. Thank you, Greg Abandoned, for coming on the podcast. Guys, be sure to check out the Chasing Bandos podcast. Check out all of Greg's photography, all of the different things he's doing, and definitely keep up with him on his journey, because there's some crazy stuff coming that you guys are going to want to see. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please do me a huge favor and leave a rating and feedback on the podcast, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. It helps us grow and find more listeners just like you. Go do the same with Greg Abandon's podcast, Chasing Bandos. And if you want to come on the podcast, please hit me up at no.tracers on Instagram, or no tracers on TikTok if you would prefer to hit me up there. Or you can email me at contact@notracers.com. Thank you guys for listening to another episode. I will talk to you next week for another one. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore something, and remember, leave no trace.